All right, kids. UnHappy Friday. Coming to you live once again from our humble abode here. This is the UnHappy Gilmore Show, powered by Green Legion Radio and part of the Green Legion Radio family. We thank you for joining us from wherever you may be and whatever device you're using to stream us on YouTube. So please pull up a chair, turn up the volume if you need to. Use the company dime if you're still stuck at work at this hour on a Friday. Crack open a cold one to get the weekend started. Let's try to have some fun as we put an end to this week's hostage situation and look forward to the weekend. Lou Mancini in the room. What's up, brother? How we doing? We are good over here. Into the weekend, end of the work week, which was a very short one for me. It was only 2 days, but a hectic 2 days nonetheless. So a little earlier start time tonight. I almost bagged it. Just rushed around and all of that shit. But and part of it is because I'm taking my daughter to go see a movie tonight. She wants to go see Snow White. Yes, I know the reviews are terrible. I get it. But Sunshine wants to go see it, and so we're gonna go. We are gonna. I think it's a 7:20 show. So doing this show at 6. It wasn't going to work tonight. That would have had me running around way too much. So, thinking that I was going to have to be run around no matter what, I figured to go ahead and just get run out now and deal with everything later on. Where the fuck? There it is. Okay. So, excuse me. That's the reason for the early start tonight. We got Lou Mancini. Thanks for the old man early start. Keenan Harmon, good evening, folks. Your elderly friend is in the room. And of course, you guys are working on your chiefing for the evening, right? So simple show tonight, guys. I don't know if we'll go the full hour. Like I said, I do have somewhere to be. 7:20. It's not far from here, but I also, if I can avoid being rushed at the end of this, it would be great. I am going to put the StreamYard link up. I am going to give you guys the opportunity to come on in, give your opinions on where you think the draft is going to. But let me get through the business end of things, and I'm going to try to explain to you guys a little bit of what's going to take place with this show for the foreseeable future. All right. So, everyone, we get to Michelle's favorite part of the show. I think she's got the dog outside right now. But we are sponsored by Cheerleaders Gentlemen's Club, located at 2740 South Front Street in Philadelphia, just minutes away from the sports complex. Cheerleaders brings you the area's most beautiful women on 5 different stages. Open 7 days a week from noon until 2 a.m. and until 4 a.m. on Fridays and Saturdays. For group information, call 215-467-1980 and reserve a private booth and or party package. Also offering free parking, a full menu, daily drink and food specials, and a premium selection of cigars and a cigar lounge. If you can't get out to the link and you can't get out to the bank and you're looking for a place to watch your favorite sporting event, head on out to Cheerleaders and enjoy the 75-foot HD TV wall, as well as HD TV screens throughout the entire club. Once again, folks, that's Cheerleaders Gentlemen's Club, located at 2740 South Front Street in Philadelphia. Dear, what's that phone number again? Now, call 215-467-1980 for all of your group and party needs. Again, Michelle's favorite part of the show. She's giving me dirty looks through the window here, laughing at me. Green Legion information. You guys all know early bird stuff is available. We'll explain it again. Right now, we know who the Birds are going to play in 2020 during the 2025 season. We just don't know when, what week, right? So, what is available on the website, always scrolling at the bottom of the screen on this show, greenlegion.com. What is available are early bird deposits. This is $200 per person. So say you wanted to go to Green Bay and you go on to greenlegion.com and you put in your deposit for Green Bay. One person, four people, whatever. And then the schedule comes out, and well, the week they're playing Green Bay happens to be Christmas, or it's too close to Christmas, or it's Thanksgiving weekend, and for whatever reason, that weekend doesn't work for you. You can contact Stephanie, Green Legion, and tell her you want to shift your deposit to another game. Say Tampa does work for you. Hey, I can go to Tampa. Let me shift my deposit to the Tampa game. You will keep your place in line and then be responsible for the remaining payments for the Tampa trip rather than the Green Bay trip. If before June 1st, you decide, you know what, I've seen the package prices come out now and it's just a little bit out of my budget. I can't pull it off this year. Or I thought this week was going to work for me. Now it doesn't, and there's really not another trip I want to go on. You can reach out before June 1st for a full refund of your deposit. All right. Once we get past June 1st, you're on the hook. So, it's given you quite a large window. Those early bird deposits became available, like a month ago. Almost a month ago now. And you don't have to make a decision until May 31st. Now, I don't advise you to wait that long. I would hope that it's at that point you would already know. The schedule should come out early May. You're looking at like a week past the draft, maybe a little bit after that. I guess if I haven't looked to see if they've actually given a date yet, NFL schedule release date. What date does NFL schedule get released? They're calling it mid-May. So, I don't know. So the draft is, let's just try to line it up here. The draft starts April 24th. Maybe 2 weeks after the draft. It could be 3 weeks after the draft. When you get the full schedule comes out. There will be leaks of games before that. So depending on which trip you want to go on, look, we're the champs. Everyone's going to be after our schedule. What I can tell you is we will open the season at home on that Thursday night. The Super Bowl champ always does that. The only thing that would be different there is if the league decided to just change that this year. Otherwise, first game of the year should be at the link against, my guess would be either the Rams or the Lions would be my guess. So we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, so your early bird deposits, you can do all that. And as long as you're prior to June 1st, you can get a full refund or move your deposit to another trip. All right. For any of my Midwest Eagles Nest folks that happen to watch this later on or are watching now or whatever, if you have questions about this, please just reach out to me directly, and I will help you. I know all the ins and outs. If I don't have the answer, I'll get it for you. I try to do my best to help keep the email traffic and questions directly to Stephanie down a little bit, if it's simple stuff that I can answer. All right, so that's what's going on there. Yeah, as far as this show is concerned, as far as the Midwest Eagles, listen to me. As far as the UnHappy Gilmore show is concerned, we're coming up on 3 years that we've been doing this show. It'll be 3 years the week of the draft. So that Friday night, this show will take place on that Friday night of rounds 2 and 3 of the draft. I will be live from the Back Porch Saloon for that. And that's pretty much the 3-year anniversary. We've kind of struck out with sponsors as far as directly for this show. And part of me gets it. I'm out here in Ohio. Most of the audience is Philadelphia based, right? Or we got a decent following down in Tampa. So Not that we need to worry about going anywhere or whatever, but to try to get more viewers. When we lost connection to Facebook and Twitter, it really hurt the viewership overall. Not just this show, but really any show that we were streaming. At the time, before we lost that connection, we on this show had, I don't know, we would get probably, YouTube was usually 50-ish, 40, 50-ish. Facebook would be 500 to 1,000, and Twitter or X or whatever had gone up to 1,500 to 2,000. We were doing really well. And then we lost connection to those, and it took a hit. So this show will continue, but it's going to be a little bit different. Every other week, at least for the baseball season, and as schedules permit for my two, for the two that join me, we are going to turn this show into what we're calling the Heart of the Order podcast. Okay. And this is going to be baseball related predominantly. Not that we won't bring up some football and stuff like that. Chris Sack obviously shares his love of the Philadelphia Eagles with me. So, it makes sense to talk a little bit of that. Lou Dominguez, he's Miami everything, but knowledgeable football fan. So, not that we won't talk a little bit of football, but we are trying to make this a baseball thing, at least for the duration of the baseball season. So, Heart of the Order, and I'll just explain that to you. We had Chris, Lou, and I had talked about this for a while before the season started, and so it came down to trying to find a name, and we wanted to make it so it had a play on words for three, because Chris, Lou, and me, it's three. But also keep a baseball theme. So we're back and forth. You can't really use triple play because that's already been used. And, it just got to where we were striking out. And I'm like, you know what? How about Heart of the Order? And it's kind of perfect. So Heart of the Order, for those of you that don't know, is your 3, 4, and 5 hitter. The heart of your order, the middle of your order. I mean, you could call it 4, 5, and 6. But the heart, but it's 3. It's the 3 dudes. And it's a play on baseball. It represents 3. So it makes sense for us. I know a few people have tried to throw out different names. Russ was trying to say like the 3 wise men and stuff like that. Keenan called it bats on steroids. But Heart of the Order, and at least that's where we're at with it right now, unless we get, unless we're able to make this thing evolve and somebody comes out of the woodwork and says, hey, I was already using that. I would hope it would evolve, right? I really, really enjoy the time talking with Chris and Lou. You saw us last week, for those of you that could stay awake or went back and watched later. I mean, that was with no structure at all. That was just the 3 of us throwing it out there like we had done for the one show each of the last couple of years, where, hey, Lou, what are you expecting from the Fish? Hey, Chris, what are you expecting from the Phils? Adam, what are you expecting from the Yanks? What do you think who's going to win the American League? Who's going to win the National League? Who's going to win the World Series? You could do early kind of things for MVP and Cy Young, but, we didn't do that last week. But we're going to start putting some structure around it. Like with this show, we call it Boner of the Week, right? For the chucklehead. Maybe for Heart of the Order, that segment gets called the Golden Sombrero. Something like that, right? Golden Sombrero, for those of you that don't know, is where a player strikes out 4 times in one game. It's pretty offensive. So Golden Sombrero becomes the boner of the week for the Heart of the Order podcast. Stuff like that, and then we'll see where it goes from there. The 3 of us have aspirations of getting together to go see ballparks together. I've told them it's a little bit difficult for me because unless we're repeating a park I've already been to, that's something I kind of do with my kids. You know what I mean? With my sons. So, But we'll see how that plays out. We've talked about doing a Wrigley trip for a weekend. I think it would be pretty fun to do that. Lou would have to fly. Chris would more than likely fly. I would drive. It's 5-ish hours for me. But each of us recording clips of ourselves traveling there, and then of course the weekend together. I think could be fun. So that's where this show is going to go moving forward. Now, like I said, it will be schedule permitting and whatever else. So that week of the NFL draft, there will either be two shows, meaning this one, meaning the Unhappy Gilmore show on the Wednesday night, Heart of the Order on the Wednesday night, and then Unhappy Gilmore on the Friday night from the draft, or Heart of the Order will just get pushed out another week. Because I am doing the Unhappy Gilmore show from the back porch that week. Like I said, schedule permitting, everyone's got lives. Chris, 2 kids, I've got 3. Lou's still trying to catch up, but he is newly married. They've got things going on. So it's it's going to be a good time. Yeah, Lou, Dominguez he texted me he's like, "Are you okay?" Dude, go for it. Advertise, bro. Let's make this a thing. I was texting with the 2 of them the other night and was like, it'd be pretty cool if we could find a way to get sponsored to go on a baseball trip. Somewhere down the road, if we were able to turn this into something where we had enough sponsorship that would kind of help pay for the 3 of us to go to, say, Vegas when the A's move there, or, maybe the Chicago thing, something like that. Chris kind of laughs. He's like, the brain never shuts off for future shit. I'm like, ever, dude, never, man. You dream big. So that's what's gonna happen here with the Unhappy Gilmore show. We're gonna rotate. That week of the draft permitting, we'll see what happens. It's tough for me to do 2 shows in a week. I mean, I can do it, but that would be a late night on the Wednesday, and then a late night on the Friday. And then I've got a 50th birthday thing to go to on the Saturday. It's just a lot going on. So, but I wanted to update you guys on what's going to transpire going forward. So that's what's happening with the Unhappy Gilmore show. We'll rotate, and pretty much every other week will become the Heart of the Order podcast, where we will talk primarily baseball. So if that's not your thing, sorry. I would hope that you would still support us in the same capacity you do now. But if baseball bores you that much, I do understand. It does not bore the 3 of us. It's probably the sport the 3 of us are most passionate about. So what do we got over here? Lou Mancini, is that an Eric Allen jersey? Yes, sir, it is. So when EA got when they announced he's going to get inducted, I bought tickets for the induction ceremony, and I bought this jersey, and I reserved 5 hotel rooms. So Fanny's in the room. Fanny, are you getting one of these tickets from me while I'm on the topic? For the induction ceremony, it is that Saturday. The ticket is $120 each because of the service fees. They were $99, and then because of all the, convenience fees and all that stuff, they are $120 each. So I've got one for myself. Liam's going to go. I don't know about Grady yet. And then Roger's going to go. So we just have to see. I know Captain Demps was saying something about wanting to come out. I don't know how he's going to handle his travel. I'll have to talk to him. But I do have some tickets. I've got 7. Right now, I've got 7 left because I don't know about Grady yet. The only thing up in the air with him is he going to be off to basic training or whatever? May as well give you an update on Grady. I think we have one more. Doesn't he have a form we have to sign?
Yes.
Yeah, he's got some form we have to sign. And then he's got to go to MEPS up in Columbus. And then, from there, he's officially enlisted. He'll turn 18. He'll graduate, blah, 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 blah. And they're telling him right now that it may be July, August before he goes off to basic training, which keeps him here with us for a little while longer. Will allow me the opportunity to bring him to work with me, and so he can get a full-time job's worth of hours in until he ships out. So that's the update with Greg. Figured while we're on the subject, may as well throw it out there. But yeah, Eric Allen induction. Yeah, this is the jersey, folks. So we're ready to go. All right. So we've not done a boner of the week in a while. Just other things, other stuff to talk about, guests, shit like that. Tonight's going to be just me. I'm expecting viewership to be very low. I don't mind. It's I'm trying to make this a quick show. If we go an hour, I'd be surprised. You guys have all heard me say that before, and then we end up a little over an hour. Tonight, I've got you going to your mother's? All right. Yeah, me too. Michelle's heading out to go spend time with her mother. Today happens to be the anniversary of Michelle's father passing away. It was 11 years ago today. So Grady's at work. Liam's at a sleepover. I'm going to take Brooklyn to go see a movie. Michelle's going to go hang out with her mom for this day. So, boner of the week. Fanny, before we get to it here, Fanny, forgot about that. My son wants to go to his first game this year for his 30th birthday, so I'm saving for that. I need to get with you once the schedule is released on how to do that from here. Fanny, what are you talking about? Wants to go to his first Birds game? You talking about in Philly or on the road? You've got to you got to tell me what you're going to need help with. Lou Man City, stop putting up the link if you want it short. Yeah, I get it, man. But I like you guys. You guys have been supportive of me for 3 years. And I want to make sure that you guys have the opportunity to give your opinions. So I'm going to get through the boner of the week thing here in about 5 to 10 minutes worth of time. Then I'm going to put the link up. We'll talk a little draft and then hard stop out. Fanny, Green Legion trip. So Green Legion trip, so you're talking about a road game. Is that correct? You're not talking about a game in Philly, correct? You got to tell me. Because there's no Green Legion trip in Philadelphia. And keep in mind, Midwest Eagles Nest wise, we are trying to plan a trip to. Okay, so you want to go to Philly. All right, so the Green Legion only does a tailgate in Philadelphia. There is there's no game tickets, all that shit. What we're going to do this year, Fanny, is Midwest Eagles Nest. We are going to put together a trip to Philly for a Birds game. All right, so when the schedule gets released, I'm going to take a look, try to pick a game off the schedule sometime in September or October. And I will get group airfare, likely from Cincinnati. It could be Cincinnati or Dayton, but I'm not specifically going to look at Dayton just because you live up there. It'll likely be Cincinnati, but we'll see. I'm going to get hotel reserved, and I will take care. We will make sure that we have tailgate with the Green Legion at Xfinity Live on game day. The only thing that I am not going to provide is game tickets. You're going to have to get those on your own. And that is because Lou, Keenan, Russ, if you're out there, anybody else in Philly who's listening, you guys can back me up on this. Tickets to the link are really, really difficult. They are very expensive. And to try to get seats all together is not something I intend to go crazy here. So airfare, hotel, tailgate. I will have you covered. But game tickets, you will be on your own for that. All right. Now, if you choose to self-travel, then you're on your own. All right. The people who are going to have the crack at the hotel and the tailgate and all that shit are the people who are going to fly with us. If you would like to book your own airfare and do your own thing, totally on you. I'm not here to tell you what to do. That's 100% on you. I'm not the Green Legion, right? None of this is for profit. Just like the Eric Allen Hall of Fame induction thing. Everything I'm telling you what the cost is what the actual cost is. Midwest Eagles Nest is not a profit business. It is a fan group that Mike and I are fortunate enough to run. So when I throw numbers out like $120 for the Eric Allen induction ticket, that's because that's what the cost is. When I tell you it's $200 for that one night at the hotel, that is the cost. It's not, and I know you trust me, Fanny. I know you do, and I appreciate that. I just sometimes people start feeling certain kinds of ways about stuff, and don't forget we also picked up a lot of new people this year who don't know us as well. They've not interacted with us as much. I'm a pretty straight shooter. I don't sugarcoat a lot of things, but I also don't pull any punches with anyone either, right? Like I just tell it to you straight. Some people just don't know me enough, and that's okay. But when it comes to that trip to Philly, I'm going to be looking real soon here at, okay, are you in? Are you committed? Once that schedule gets released, it's going to move very, very quickly, and money is going to have to come very, very fast in order for me to get all these things lined up. Okay? So that's where we're at with that. But yeah, we'll talk about Philly. The only thing we're going to do Green Legion-wise in Philly is the tailgate. That's it. All right? There is no Green Legion hotel. There's no Green Legion game tickets. That doesn't happen in Philly. Those are road trip experiences like what we had here in Cincinnati. You saw the gate, you saw the tailgate, but we also had, I think it was 125 game tickets. We had a hotel booked right up at the Hyatt. So we had a pep rally the night before at the Filson, same place where the tailgate was. None of that happens at home games. You just get the tailgate, okay? And I'll make sure we're covered with that for everyone who books the travel with us. If not, you're going to be on your own. But I can't get our tailgate tickets to the Green Legion, right? If it's a different grade. Yes, absolutely. Yes. And if you need help with that, Fanny, don't hesitate to reach out. I will always, always, always help you with that. Absolutely. All right. Lou Mancini, you must go to Angelo's. And it is. That cheesesteak is something serious. I know you've had them at the back porch, and don't get me wrong, back porch does a great job. They really do. The fact that we can get that close to authentic here in Cincinnati is unbelievable. Mike getting the Amoroso rolls, the Cooper Sharp, the cooks in the kitchen, throwing it all together for us. It's fantastic. But it's when you go to Philly and actually get one, especially a place like Angelo's or a John's Roast Pork, or, I'm still a little bit partial to D'Alessandro's. I know Mike is very, very passionate about D'Alessandro's. And there's a litany of other places, not Geno's or Pat's. It's a different thing. So, Fanny, my son has never been to the Link or an Eagles game. All right. Well, hey, look, you can go to Philly or you can hop on a road trip. It's whatever's in your budget. But I can help you with that as once the schedule comes out, as we get closer. If you're dead set on going to Philly, then yeah, you just wait for the schedule to come out, and I'll have the Midwest Eagles Nest info as quick as possible, and then and then we'll go from there. All right. All right. Let me get to the boner of the week here, and then I'm going to throw the link up. We can talk a little draft, and then I'm going to get out of here. So I could have gone with the Raiders for throwing another $80 million at Geno Smith. Look, I think Geno's done a really nice job to overhaul his career, turn himself around, turn around his image a bit. You know, I don't want to bash it too much because it looks like $40 million a year, and in this market for a guy like Geno, that's probably about right. Unfortunately, no, he's not the upper echelon. He's not Jalen Hurts. He's not Josh Allen. He's not Lamar Jackson. He's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not Joe Burrow. He's not in that class, right? But he is kind of that next rung down. It's going to be really, really interesting how San Francisco handles Brock Purdy, because I don't think there's a huge difference between Brock Purdy and Geno Smith. I don't. I think if you put Geno Smith in that Frisco offense, he might actually be more successful. But I digress. So I could have gone with the Raiders for that. I get it. It's kind of the fair market value, but geez, dude, shouldn't you be looking at a quarterback in the future? But then, as my good friend Dave Conant said earlier this morning, Ja Morant said, "Hold my beer." You guys remember Ja Morant, right? Memphis Grizzlies. All the talent in the world, number 2 pick in the draft a few years back. Same draft that Zion Williamson went number 1. RJ Barrett goes number 3 to the Knicks. Morant was the 2 pick to Memphis. Electric. A lot of reminiscent, a lot of Derrick Rose type of play. Just kind of kamikaze at the rim, living above the rim. Really just exciting gameplay. And then the kinks in the armor, he starts getting endorsements thrown at him, all kinds of stuff. And then the kinks in the armor start coming out. He's very young. He's very immature. He's a bit of a thug. So he ends up beating up a 17-year-old kid on, playing a pickup game of basketball, threatened to shoot him. There's the video of it, a gun, him waving it out of a car. Then he gets suspended for. There's the Instagram video where he's at a club and he's got a gun. He gets suspended for that. Loses all kinds of endorsement deals. I think it ended up being 30 or 40 games suspended, something like that. Loses a ton of endorsement deals, estimated value somewhere around $50 million. Obviously, that sort of image hurts your ability to negotiate top of the market contract with an NBA team. So you hurt yourself there as well. The total loss is probably $100 million, somewhere in that range, which is obscene. So what does he do? He starts promising that he's going to overhaul this. He's going to change his image. I'm sorry to all the fans who look up to me, blah, 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 blah. And for a while, looked like he was doing a decent job. But the other night, against Golden State, he chooses to make a gun gesture at Buddy Hield. Now, it was also shown that Buddy Hield was doing it to him. They both get technicals. Look, do I think doing this at someone is all that bad? I don't know. What I do know is that Morant has a history of carrying actual firearms in situations where he shouldn't be carrying actual firearms. He's got a history of behaving violently off the court with kids, basically, beating one up, threatening to shoot him. So the gun thing is a problem for Ja Morant. Obviously, the NBA feels that making this gesture at all is a problem for the league. And so when he did it the first time, the other night to Buddy Hield, he was given a, what has been described as a stern talking to by the commissioner's office, whatever, by the league. Look, you can't be doing that. It's bad for our image. We're not going to accept that kind of stuff. This is a guy who's trying to rebuild his image. So you'd think he would just say, I'm sorry, move on, and behave himself. No. That didn't happen. What did he do? Last night. Not 24 hours after he's already reprimanded. Goes out, hits what should be, we should be talking about his game-winning shot. Instead, we're talking about he hits that freaking shot and turns around and makes the same gesture again. And this time he's fined $75,000 for it. Now, in the grand scheme of things, where I just broke down for you before, he's probably lost $100 million-ish in pay, in straight up league pay and endorsement deals. So the $75,000 seems like a drop in the bucket compared to all that. The problem is, you're not proving that you've tried to change anything. All you've proven is that you were sorry that you got in trouble, right? There is a big difference here, Morant. There's a huge difference, and this is a conversation that I've had to have with my teenage children, who I expect to have the conversation with. Not a freaking grown man. But instead, we have to say he needs to be taught the same way. There is a massive difference in actually being remorseful, being sorry for what you did. There's a huge difference between that and being sorry that you were in trouble. Okay? Sorry that you're in trouble means, oh shit, I'm losing money, I'm losing this, I'm losing. So I'm sorry that this is happening to me now. Actually being remorseful is, I screwed up. It won't happen again. Let me go correct my behavior. Let me go seek counseling if I need it, and actually try to overhaul your image without it being selfish. Morant has proven with this that he is much more the former than the latter. He was sorry that he was losing money. He's not sorry for what he did. He's sorry that he's in trouble. Massive difference. Start looking at people like that as narcissists, sociopathic behavior. They don't actually care. Okay? I don't know how else to describe it. I don't know how much more this kid has to come close to losing or actually lose than, $75,000. What's next? So you gave him a talking to. He obviously didn't care. Hits a shot, makes the same gesture at another team. But now you fine him $75,000. So what happens if he comes out and does it again? What are you going to do then, Adam Silver? Adam Silver, who I think is the worst commissioner of the four major sports. Yes, to Chris Sack's point, we could go with Gary Bettman, but Bettman had, when you look at it overall, Bettman just had to make some really, really tough decisions in order to get the NHL to where it is now. Adam Silver's a joke. The players walk all over him. He has no control over any of it. Load management, all of this shit has gone haywire under his leadership, or lack thereof, to be more specific. But John Morant, congratulations, bud. Not the first time you've been our boner of the week. And the way your life is going, probably not going to be the last either. Any more incidents, you're going to start making candidacy for Boner of the Year award. So there you go. Lou Mancini, what do you got here? He is on a path to becoming Aaron Hernandez's nephew. Yikes. Let's hope not. I hoped for the best with him after the first few incidents, but he just doesn't really appear to give a shit. Like overall, doing this, what he's done the last couple of nights, after you can think whatever you want. You can think the league is being ridiculous, that it's kind of harmless. The league doesn't think so. So when they reprimanded him the first time, that's all it should take. Instead, he goes out and does it again. Doesn't give a shit. So, Bone of the week, John Morant. Congratulations. All right, let's get What do we got here? Keenan. Next time, go to a place across the street from. Yeah, I heard, and I can't remember the Chubby's. That's it. Chubby's. Got it. Scott Calcaterra, how you doing, my friend? We got about 15 minutes left here, and then I'm going to get out of here. So I'm going to put this link up, but I do have a hard stop at an hour tonight. Just got done with the boner of the week. We are going to head into a little bit of draft talk before we close out the night. And the reason for the hard stop, the early start and the hard stop, is because I'm taking my daughter to movies tonight. So, draft 3 weeks away. Actually, 20 days from round one. 21 days from rounds 2 and 3 on that Friday night, where we will take this show on the road to the Back Porch Saloon. And we will be doing the show there that Friday night for rounds 2 and 3 of the draft. Scott, it'll be back in our original corner, our original nest, where you came and sat with me that night. And I'm going to give everybody who's there will have the opportunity to hop in the passenger seat and give your opinions on the offseason, the draft for the Eagles, all of that sort of stuff. Any kind of wow moments you think may have happened in the first round, we'll have all of that by that point. So the StreamYard link is up. If anybody would like to pop in and give their opinion on what they think the draft is going to look like. I've got about 15 minutes to go here. I usually, the last 3 years, I have been able to nail the top 10 picks, pretty much all of them. I think I've been at like a 70 to 80% hit rate, where the only ones I got wrong were when teams traded out. And I don't ever look at that. I just kind of keep the team in their draft spot and be like, what would you take? What do they need? Because trades can become very difficult to predict, unless there's something so obvious that you can't even stand it. But Keenan Harmon says, draft talk, and D-line, of course, defensive backs and linebackers. We should entertain a new kicker. So what I will tell you is this draft in particular is very deep at defensive line, be that edge rush or tackle. It's also very deep at running back. I would say, so last year we spent 2 very high draft picks on defensive backs. It would be hard for me to imagine Howie doing that again. I think it's for the Eagles, it's going to be in the trenches early, right? Early and possibly often. Yeah, it could be trenches the first couple of picks. And you guys all know my stance. Rounds 1, 2, 3. I want to see kids from the SEC, from the Big 10, from the Big 12. I want kids from big prominent schools that play big time games week in and week out against big time pro talent. And then when you get to round 4, 5, 6, obviously 7, take your chances. Now, I understand Quinion Mitchell came out of Toledo. That's the MAC, and that's a special circumstance. That kid he'd have been, had he played at an Alabama and Ohio State or something like that, he would have been the number 1 pick. Well, maybe not number 1 pick, but forget about just top corner off the board. He probably would have been a top 10 pick if he's playing at one of these big time schools. The only real question people had about him was the same question I had, and it was reasonable. Who the hell did you face all year? It didn't matter, right? So, what's everybody saying over here? Fanny, safety, edge, tight end, D-line. You got to throw offensive line in there too. Lost Mekhi Becton. We lost Fred Johnson. I know we picked up another one in a trade and it's signing. Don't be surprised if you see offensive line early. Depending on what it comes down to is whenever somebody asks me who I think the Eagles are going to draft, best player available at a position of need every single time our pick comes up, right? I get the need at safety, but it would be very, very difficult for me to believe that Howie's going to take another first-round pick on a defensive back. I think safety may be a pick somewhere. I don't know that he's going to pick him that early. So we'll just have to wait and see. I think it's trenches on one side of the ball or the other. Captain Dent's in the room. What's going on? Got about 12 minutes to go here, and then I got to rock and roll. So doing a little draft talk. The link is up somewhere in here. You want it to pop in. Cap, I think you and I see this pretty much the same way. We're talking trenches early and then moving to maybe a safety. I do think tight end is on the radar. I am not going to be at all surprised if Dallas Goedert is traded come draft weekend, whether it's that Thursday night, Friday night, or sometime Saturday. Look, I love Dallas Goedert. I do. But the bottom line is we are 2 years past where Ertz was when we drafted Goddard. Dallas Goedert has missed, I think I did the math, and I think I did it right. Let me pull him back up. I know there is a thought that, he was just injured a bunch last year. Unfortunately, that's just not accurate. It's not just last season. So he misses 7 games last year, 3 games in 2023, 5 games in 2022. 2021, he misses a game. So since he's become the starter, which is really 2021, he has missed, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15. He's missed pretty much the equivalent of an entire season due to injury since he became the starter at tight end. And while most of that happened last year, it's progressing to that, right? So 2022, he misses 5 games. 2023, he misses 3. 2024, he misses 7. And yes, Scott, I read that too, where it's better to trade him after June for salary cap, which, I get it. But if we're going to look at a way to get more draft capital, and we have to eat maybe a couple of million extra this year, and he's off our books for next year, because next year is really what we're looking at as far as like a cap purposes thing. You can't really look at this year as a salary cap year. We're pretty much tapped out. Everything that's left there is going to be for your, do we have to sign a guy because somebody gets hurt? Yeah, shit like that. Mercenary contracts, which we've already signed a bunch of. So there's not a whole lot there. The cap year is next year when Carter's going to need to get paid. He'll reset the market at the defensive tackle position. Cam Jurgens will get paid, big time for our center. And yeah, to Fanny's point, Dallas, the final draw is he's also 30 years old with this injury history. It's tough. It's tough because we all love Dallas Goedert, but the writing's on the wall. It just is. Now, talking to Scott, I know, Scott, you've been a little apprehensive. Do we think Grant is ready to step into that role? We all love the way Grant runs routes and catches the football, period. Does the blocking take a little bit of a hit? Yes, it does. He's not the aggressor that Dallas Goedert is. But the pass catching portion, I don't know that there's such a big drop off. Grant has proven to be able to fill that role. And you're not really going to know what Grant can do unless he's got the reins. Now, that's also not to say we trade Goedert and draft the tight end. This also happens to be a pretty good draft for tight ends, which is another problem for Goedert in that we can, save ourselves some money. So, and maybe it goes that route. Maybe we use a draft pick on another tight end, trade Goedert after the June 1st for another pick next year, 4th round pick next year, and save ourselves some money. I don't know. It'll be a sad day, but it does look like all signs are kind of pointing in the direction that Goddard may not be part of this team come opening day, unfortunately. So we'll see with that. Now, as far as the rest of the draft, and I want to go back to looking at the top of the draft. I don't think there's any question at this point that Tennessee is going to take Cam Ward. Now, look, I will preface this by saying the same thing I said last year. I don't really think any of these quarterbacks are surefire, can't miss, gotta have it. I did not feel that way about Caleb Williams last year, although everyone and their grandmother did. That still remains to be seen. I felt that Bo Nix was decent. I thought Jaden Daniels is a great athlete. I think Jaden Daniels went to a really nice situation with Cliff Kingsbury as his offensive coordinator. And that probably will only last one more year before Kingsbury starts, looking at trying to be a head coach again. Russ Taylor, I'm here for the sluts. Brother, I gotta tell you, I took my cap to you. Congratulations on a job well done on opening day there in Philly. That shirt obviously did its job. So back to the draft. Cam Ward goes number 1 to Tennessee. The wild card is Cleveland. I don't know. There's the thought that they're just gonna take Abdul Carter. But then why the hell would you have signed Myles Garrett to that big contract? It doesn't make sense to me. So I don't know if that's where you see Travis Hunter end up. It's possible. They could go Abdul Carter. They could trade the pick and be smart for once, but let's be honest, they have the factory of sadness. They're not known for their brain. Then you get to the Giants at 3, who signed Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. It wouldn't make sense for them to take a quarterback, but some folks like Adam Schefter think that that's exactly what they're going to do. I don't think it makes any sense. I think it makes more sense for a quarterback to go to Cleveland, Shedeur Sanders to Cleveland. If Shedeur is going to go that high. If you look at Vegas has Shedeur Sanders dropping down the draft order. Any draft expert you look at, and I agree with all of them, there's 2 blue chip guys in this draft. Two guys that are rated anyways as surefire, can't miss players. Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter. So somewhere in that top 3 to 5, both of them are going off the board. All right. It's just a matter of who. I don't think that Shedeur Sanders stands in the way of any of that. Come draft night. So the Tennessee Titans at 1 go Cam Ward. I don't think there's any question there. I think Cleveland ends up setting the tone for the rest of that early part of the draft, depending on what they do. If they take Carter, the Giants are not likely to take a quarterback. Giants, did they go Travis Hunter? That could be. The Patriots are not taking a quarterback. Jacksonville's not taking a quarterback. So if Shedeur Sanders goes past Cleveland, the next spot would be the Raiders at 6. And they've got Geno Smith they just signed. Now, if you really look at the ins and outs of that contract, it does kind of set up for them to start Geno this year, maybe into next season, and then have the possibility of Shedeur take over at that point. But, and then you have the Jets at 7. I can't imagine they're sold that Justin Fields is their future. Carolina at 8, they're still playing around with Bryce Young. 9, the Saints. The Bears, no. San Francisco looks like they're going to sign Purdy. Dallas is paying Dak. This is the biggest contract in league history. Miami's paying Tua. Indy would be a spot, but he's not going. He's not. If he dropped all the way down to 14, I'd be a little surprised with how crazy the league is about quarterbacks. Is it possible that Cleveland takes him? Sure. Is it possible the Giants do it? I hope so. I would love for the Giants to have signed Russell Wilson, to have signed Jameis Winston, and still draft a quarterback. Personally, I don't think Shedeur Sanders is going to work out in the NFL. Okay? He does not have a big arm, and he is not fast. Okay? And these people that think that just because he's Deion's kid means he's quick. He is not. Now, he does slide around the pocket a bunch. And, I guess the word is he processes things quickly, which I find hard to believe because he holds the ball forever. The NFL, he'll get crushed doing that because he's not outrunning anybody. I don't know. You hear about him processing things quickly and being accurate, but then you also hear that he's got limitations. But without the athleticism of a Caleb Williams to make up for it. So, I don't know. I think you're still likely to see at least 3 quarterbacks go off the board in the first. Cam Ward's going to go number 1 to Tennessee. They're done with Will Levis. Ward's going 1. Shedeur will be the next one off. And there's Jackson Dart, who has moved up draft boards very, very quickly during the offseason. And there are some teams, I read an article where some teams have confirmed that they've actually got Jackson Dart rated higher than Shedeur Sanders. Now, I don't know, who that would be or whatever. This is all hearsay, but, I guess it's possible. I mean, who in this draft outside of that top end, Indy, sure. Atlanta, no. Arizona, no. Cincy, no. Seattle, maybe. Tampa, no. Denver, no. Pittsburgh, yes. Chargers, no. Green Bay, no. Minnesota, no. Houston, no. The Rams feel like a really good spot for Jackson Dart. You think about him going there. Sean McVay is his coach, and he's still got Matt Stafford in front of him for a little while. Vanny, Will Howard, not even go. Will Howard is not a good quarterback. Nobody thought he was going to go high, anyways. He's not very good. So let me get over to the room one more time, and then we're going to get out of here. I'm here for the slots. Danny Calcaterra will get a promotion to tight end 1. We'll see. I would like to see Grant take that job. I think it'd be cool. And he's up for a contract next year too. So, we'll see what that does for Grant going into this year. Russ says he's just waiting for the draft and schedule release, just like the rest of us. 3 weeks to the draft, probably 5 weeks, 6 weeks to the schedule release. They signed Miles to be a teacher to Carter. You don't sign somebody that big of a contract just to teach the next guy. The only thing I could say is maybe they draft Carter because they know they can't really dominate anywhere else. So you got Carter on one side and Garrett on the other, and they're saying, look, we struggle everywhere, but we are going to be dominant on our defensive line. That could be. And maybe they do go Carter. Russ Taylor again. I can't have Shedeur anywhere near once. You rub off on him. You guys are bad. It's just name recognition. Oh, you talked about Sanders? I mean, look, Shedeur was a decent college quarterback. He was good. He's just not fast. Russ, he's not fast even for college. You're talking about a guy who refuses to run a 40-yard dash because it'll hurt his draft stock. He didn't even do the 40-yard dashes in pro day because he can't run it. He's not fast at all. You're talking about like a 4.6 to 4.8 40. That's not going to cut it. Lou Mancini. What do we got here? Jackson Dart is definitely an action movie name. Yeah, Russ makes a lot of us laugh, man. Yeah, Doc Holliday passed away. Raise your glass, pour one out for Val Kilmer. Iceman. Let's see. I'm not betting. So Cap says he's not betting on Sanders' pedigree. I think it's really going to depend for him where he ends up, like it does for a lot of guys. But like, I mean, Cap, if Shador ends up in New York with the Giants, do you really see him being successful? Or in Cleveland, he's not going to be successful there. The Raiders, another poorly run organization. I think a kid who's got some limitations, arm strength and escapability, going to teams that are poorly run is not a good recipe. Caleb Williams, jury's still out. We'll see what happens. But at least he's got the physical attributes to be able to get past some of these things, right? So, I mean, Indy's another one. Atlanta, the list goes on. We've talked about this before. Show me a team that has stayed mired in mediocrity or worse for an extended period of time, and I will show you a team with a bad owner, right? And the list goes on and on. Tennessee's got problems. Cleveland's ownership is terrible. The Giants' ownership isn't great. Woody Johnson with the Jets is an ass. Tepper with the Panthers is an idiot. Arthur Blank in Atlanta. Irsay in Indianapolis. It's the same shit over and over again. So, let's see. But he would have the mental to survive a little while. Yeah, you would hope that sort of pedigree would come from his dad. But Dion has also said that he is going to try to orchestrate a landing spot, which I'm not a fan of. I'm just going to get this out there. I am not a fan of anyone, and I didn't like when Eli did it. I don't care for it that John Elway did it 42 years ago. You're the top 1% of the top 1%. Playing in the NFL should be an honor, and if you're drafted that high, you should accept your position. And these guys who just want to dictate everything, I don't go for it. I think it's weak sauce. But anyways, folks, like I said, I had a hard stop. I do have to get out of here. I got to get my daughter ready, and we got to get over to the movie theater. We are going to see Snow White tonight, which I've heard is terrible, but Sunshine still wants to see it, so I'm going to take her to go see it. I'd like to thank all of you for coming in, joining me a little early tonight, and not keeping me too late here. I did put the link up. Nobody wanted to join in. That's okay. We will be back next week. Remember, like I said at the top of the show, every other week. So next week, this will be the Heart of the Order baseball podcast featuring 305 Sports Lou Dominguez, my colleague with the with Green Legion Radio, Chris Sack, and of course yours truly. Until then, folks, take care. Enjoy your weekend. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. Remember that Judge is not back in until Monday. As always, folks, go Birds. All right, kids, that's enough. I'm going to get out of here. You guys all have a great weekend. Cap, thank you for stopping in. Lou, Russ, Keenan, Scott. I hope I didn't miss anyone. Fanny, and anyone else watching. I knew there were more people watching, but y'all didn't decide to comment because my little ticker was going up as the show was going on. Take care. Have a great weekend, and we will talk next week. We love you.